Hello everyone, Dr. Michael Llamas here for Teaching Subjects, and today I'm going to discuss a fundamental yet often misunderstood topic in English grammar, and that's the 8 functions of nouns. Now, as someone who's spent many years as a student and then conducting research, I understand the challenges learners face when trying to master the nuances of grammar, especially when preparing for exams like the IELTS exam. So that's why this presentation is designed to provide you with clarity, confidence, and understanding how nouns function in sentences. So we will explore the 8 key roles that nouns play in sentences, and understanding these functions is more than just academic knowledge. It's about equipping you with the tools to structure sentences effectively, conveying your ideas clearly, and elevate your overall command of the English language. So whether you are a student preparing for a standardized exam, a professional refining your communication skills, or simply a grammar enthusiast, this presentation will provide practical insight and examples to deepen your understanding of noun usage. So over the course of this presentation, I'll walk you through each of the 8 noun functions one by one. We'll discuss their definitions, look at examples, and identify common mistakes to avoid. So by the end of this presentation, you'll have a comprehensive understanding of how nouns operate in sentences and how mastering these functions can improve your grammar. So let's get started. Okay, so now that we've set the stage for today's presentation, let's begin by answering a fundamental question. What are nouns? So at their core, nouns are words that name people, places, things, ideas, or qualities. They are the building blocks of language, providing a way to identify and describe the world around us. So examples of nouns include words like teacher, which refers to a person, library, which names a place, book, which represents a thing, and even abstract concepts like happiness or freedom. And understanding what nouns are is the first step, but what's equally important is understanding how they function within a sentence. So you might be wondering, why is this so important? Well, mastering the functions of noun enhances clarity and grammatical accuracy. So for example, recognizing whether a noun is acting as a subject or as an object can prevent confusion in writing and speaking. And this knowledge is especially crucial for students preparing for exams like the IELTS exam, where precise grammar and sentence structure can make a significant difference in scoring well. But it's not just exams. Understanding noun functions is a key skill for anyone looking to improve their communication in English, whether in academic, professional, or personal contexts. So let's preview the 8 main functions of nouns that we'll be covering in detail throughout this presentation. Now these include subject, which are nouns that perform the action or are the focus of the sentence. Object, this includes direct objects, indirect objects, and objects of prepositions. Predicate, nominatives, nouns that rename or define the subject. Appositives, nouns that provide additional information about another noun. Object complement, nouns that complete or modify a direct object. And nouns of direct address, nouns used to address someone directly. Now, each of these functions play a unique role in how sentences are structured and understood. And as we move through the presentation, we'll explore these roles in depth with examples and tips to help you grasp their practical applications. So with that foundation in place, let's dive into the first and perhaps probably the most important function of nouns, the role as the subject of a sentence. So let's begin our exploration of noun functions with one of the most fundamental roles, nouns as a subject. And this is perhaps the most common function you'll encounter, as the subject is the starting point for understanding who or what a sentence is about. So in grammar, the subject of a sentence is the noun that performs the action of the verb or serves as the focus of the sentence. Essentially, the subject tells us who or what the sentence is about. So without a subject, a sentence cannot be complete or grammatically correct. So let's look at a few examples to illustrate this concept. The first one is the dog barks. Here, the dog is the subject because it performs the action of barking. The next sentence is success requires effort. In this sentence, success is the subject because it's the focus of the verb requires. So notice that the subject is always closely tied to the verb, as the two work together to form the core of any sentence. Okay, good. So now let's address a common pitfall: misidentifying the subject, particularly in complex sentences. So for example, in the sentence, the boy running down the street is my neighbor, Many people might mistakenly identify running as the subject, but the true subject here is the boy. Or we can have another sentence such as, there is a book on the table. Here the subject is not there, the true subject is a book. Okay, so understanding this distinction is key to correctly analyzing and constructing sentences. So now that we've established how nouns function as a subject of a sentence, let's move on to the next role, which is direct objects. Okay, so now that we've covered nouns as a subject, let's examine their second key function, which is nouns as the direct object. Now, this role is just as important as it helps complete the meaning of many sentences by answering the questions what or whom after the verb. So the definition. A direct object is a noun that receives the action of the verb. So in other words, it's the thing or person that the action is being done to. Without a direct object, certain sentences would feel incomplete or lack clarity. So let's look at some examples to illustrate this function. The first sentence, she read the book. Here the book is the direct object because it receives the action of reading. Ask the question, she read what? The answer is the book. In another sentence, he painted the house. In this sentence, the house is a direct object because it's the thing being painted. Ask yourself, he painted what? The answer is the house. So as you can see, direct objects are important in providing detail and completing the meaning of a sentence. So as some pro tips, to identify a direct object in a sentence, follow these two easy steps. The first one is find the verb. This is the action word. The second is ask what or whom after the verb. So for example, in the sentence, I called my friend, the verb is called. Ask called whom, right? So then the answer is my friend. So that would be the direct object. So this simple question-based approach makes it easy to spot direct objects even in more complex sentences. Okay, good. So now that we've understood how nouns function as indirect objects, we'll build on this concept by looking at nouns as indirect objects, which often work alongside direct objects to add another layer of meaning. Okay, so now we have nouns as the indirect object. So indirect object adds another layer to a sentence by showing to whom or for whom the action of the verb is performed. So as a definition, an indirect object is a noun that indicates to whom or for whom something is done. It works closely with the verb and the direct object, providing additional context or meaning. Essentially, the indirect object answers the question, whom benefits from this action, or to whom is this action directed? Okay, so let's break this down with some examples. So in the first sentence, she gave her friend a gift. Here, her friend is the indirect object because it tells us to whom the gift was given. The direct object here is a gift. Okay, so in a second sentence, they told the children a story. Okay, so in this sentence, the children is the indirect object as it shows to whom the story was told, compared to the direct object is a story in this sentence. Notice that the indirect object typically comes between the verb and the direct object in sentences like these. Okay, so how do you identify an indirect object? So here's 3 simple tips. Okay, so the first thing to do is to look for the verb. The second is to find the direct object by asking what or whom. Then the third step is you then ask to whom or for whom. So for instance, in the sentence, I sent my teacher an email. The verb here is sent. The direct object is an email, right? Sent what? I sent an email. Then the indirect object is my teacher, right? Because that answers sent to whom. We sent it to my teacher, or I sent it to my teacher. So by following this approach, you can easily identify indirect objects and understand how they enhance sentence meanings. So by following this approach, you can easily identify indirect objects and understand how they enhance sentence meaning. Now let's explore the function of nouns as the object of a preposition. Now this is another key role that nouns play in sentences, and understanding it will help you make your writing more descriptive and clear. So as a definition, when a noun follows a preposition, it becomes the object of the preposition. Preposition words like on, in, under, with, and about that show relationships between other words in a sentence. The noun that follows the preposition helps complete the prepositional phrase, adding essential detail or context. So let's look at a couple of examples to better understand how nouns function as the object of a preposition, and then we can put this into context. So for the first sentence, the book is on the table. Now, in this sentence, on is the preposition and the table is the object of the preposition. The phrase on the table tells us where the book is located. Now, as a second sentence, she walked with her dog. Here, with is the preposition and her dog is the object of the preposition. The phrase with her dog adds context by telling us who she walked with. So prepositional phrases like on the table or with her dog are important because they add crucial details to a sentence. So without these phrases, the sentence might still be grammatically correct, but it would lack important context that helps the reader or listener understand the full meaning. So for example, right? He sat in the chair. Okay, he sat in the chair. The prepositional phrase in the chair adds information about where he sat. In another sentence, she was talking about the book. The phrase about that book specifies the topic of her conversation. Okay, so now let's dive into how nouns function as a predicate nominatives. Now, this function plays a unique role in sentences by renaming or redefining the subject and is always connected to the subject by a linking verb. So its definition. So a predicate nominative is a noun that follows a linking verb and provides additional information about the subject. So essentially it renames or defines the subject, giving clarity or further detail. Now this function is only possible with linking verbs, not action verbs. So keep that in mind. So let's look at a couple of examples to tie this in. So in this sentence, the winner is John. Here, John is the predicate nominative. It renames the subject the winner and is connected to it by a linking verb, which is the word is. In another sentence, her dream was to become a teacher. In this sentence, to become a teacher acts as the predicate nominative, providing more information about the subject, her dream, through the linking verb was. Predicate nominatives can also include noun phrases, adding even more depth to the sentence. So as I mentioned, these use linking verbs. Now linking verbs are important for predicate nominatives. These verbs don't show action, but instead connect the subject to additional information about itself. Now some common linking verbs include the words is, are, was, were, seems, appears, becomes, feels, and looks. So for example, the manager seems like a great leader. A great leader is a predicate nominative describing the subject, the manager. In another sentence, the best option appears the most cost effective. The most cost effective is the predicate nominative, redefining the subject, the best option. Now, recognizing predicate nominatives is important because they deepen our understanding of how subjects can be renamed or defined within a sentence. Now, this is especially important for mastering complex sentences in English, particularly for academic and professional writing. Okay, so now let's explore another important function of nouns, which is the appositives. Now, this function allows us to add extra information or clarification to a noun, enhancing the meaning of our sentences in a concise and an elegant way. So, as a definition, an appositive is a noun or noun phrase placed directly next to another noun. Its purpose is to provide additional information, explanation, or clarification about that noun. Appositives can make your writing more detailed and also more informative while keeping it concise. Okay, so let's go through some examples to illustrate the appositives in action. So in the first sentence, my friend, a talented artist, painted this. In this sentence, a talented artist is the appositive. It provides more information about the noun, which is my friend. Notice how it's set off by commas, which is typically for appositives that add non-essential information. Now, in another sentence, the city of Paris is beautiful. Here, of Paris is the appositive, adding specific detail about the city. Now, in this case, the appositive isn't set off by commas because it's essential for identifying which city is being referred to. Now, I know that might seem like a challenge of when to add commas, so Let's go through some tips. So one important thing to know is the use of commas with appositives. Okay, so non-essential appositives are set off by commas. Now, these provide extra information that isn't important to the main meaning of the sentence. So for example, my brother, comma, an engineer, comma, lives in New York. Okay. Now, essential appositives are not set off by commas, and these are necessary to identify the noun they describe. So, for example, the poet Emily Dickinson wrote many famous works. Okay, so understanding the difference between essential and non essential appositives is important to use them correctly. So, appositives are incredibly versatile. Okay, they allow you to pack a lot of information into a single sentence, making your writing richer and more precise. So, whether you are describing a person, a place, or a concept, appositives are a powerful tool for adding detail. Okay, so here I want to discuss object complements and direct addresses. Okay, so these functions highlight the versatility of nouns in providing clarity and context to our sentences. Let's first discuss nouns as object complements. So as a definition, object complements is a noun that completes or modifies the meaning of a direct object. It essentially renames or describes the direct object, adding depth and clarity to the sentence. Object complements typically follow verbs like appoint, elect, name, or call. Okay, so let's look at two examples. So for the first example here, they elected her president. Okay, in this sentence, president is the object complement. It renames or specifies the direct object, which is her. In the second sentence, we named the dog Max. Here, Max is the object complement, giving the name to the direct object, which is the dog. So notice how object complements always refer back to the direct object, providing additional detail. Now, understanding object complements is important because they often appear in formal contexts, such as announcements, appointments, or descriptions of roles and titles. Okay, so now let's discuss nouns in direct address. So this occurs when a noun is used to directly name or address someone, making it clear who is being spoken to. So let's go through some examples to make this make sense. So in the first sentence, we have Michael, can you help me? So in this sentence, Michael is the noun of direct address. It specifies who the speaker is talking to. And then for the second sentence, we have good job, team. Here, team is the noun of direct address, identifying the group being addressed. Okay, so direct addresses is a simple but effective way to personalize or specify communications, especially in conversational or instructional settings. These nouns often appear with commas to set them apart. So now that we've discussed the 8 functions, let's take a moment to summarize what we've learned and emphasize why understanding noun functions is so important. So let's first recap the 8 functions of nouns. Okay, so for the first one, we discussed subject, and that's the noun that performs the action or is the focus of the sentence. We discussed direct object, the noun that receives the action of the verb. An indirect object, the noun that indicates to whom or for whom the action is performed. Object of a preposition, the noun that completes a prepositional phrase. Predicate nominative, the noun that renames or defines the subject through a linking verb. Appositive, the noun placed next to another noun to provide additional information. Object complement, the noun that completes or modifies the direct object. And for the last one, direct address, the noun used to directly name or address someone. So by mastering these functions, you unlocked a deeper understanding of how nouns operate within sentences, enhancing your ability to construct clear, precise, and effective communication. So why is this so important? So understanding these functions is not just about passing grammar tests or improving your IELTS score, although those are valuable outcomes. It's about empowering yourself to express ideas with precision, clarity, and confidence. So whether it's in written or spoken English, a strong grasp of noun functions helps ensure your message is understood exactly as you intended. So as we finish this video, remember this: understanding noun functions not only enhances your grammar, but also empowers you to express yourself with precision. Now think of these functions as tools in your communication toolkit. tools that will serve you well in any context, which is academic or in professional. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for watching this video. If you found this lesson helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up, comment down below with any comments, feedback, or questions that you might have. Subscribe to the channel for more grammar lessons, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.